Hi everyone, my name is DeAndre Sinet and I am your host for Distinct Lens Podcast. I have a special guest here with us today. Her name is Syrita. How do you pronounce your last name?
It's Henry. As in the eighth. Yeah.
Okay, Henry as in the eighth.
Yes.
Okay, could you give us a brief introduction, like how old you are, where you're from, where you work?
I'm a Londoner, born and bred. I'm 42. I work as a quantity surveyor in the construction industry.
So what is a quantity surveyor?
Okay, so after an architect has given a client their drawings, they come to us to value the job and to timescale the job as well. So it's my responsibility to, from start to finish, once we win a project, from the start, we make sure the costs stay within the budget that we gave at the beginning. So if it's a 2-year project, I have to be on top of all the subcontractors, making sure I pay them on time monthly and updating the client of any variations, financial ones that could possibly make the project go above budget or even sometimes below budget when it's saving. So yeah, there's a lot of responsibility on us to make sure we're on time and within budget.
And that could be a whole other podcast because I have a bunch of other questions, but I'm gonna leave that there for now.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so as you know, well, I'm not sure if you know because we've had an initial conversation. I sent the pre-interview questionnaire. So a Distinct Lens Podcast is about sharing the experiences of the Black diaspora for the purposes, in relation to financial literacy, so that we can increase the practice of group economics. So I'm super happy to have you here today. Our initial conversation is what actually made me think you would be a wonderful guest, and so we can dive right in.
Okay.
So you said you're a Londoner, and I hear your accent. Where are your parents from?
I'm actually, I'd say 2nd generation Jamaican, maybe 3rd actually, because my mum was marginally born here.
What is marginally?
My grandma was pregnant when she came over in the Windrush, so my mum was born here. And but grandma is Jamaican, and my dad is Jamaican as well. Okay. So yeah, kind of 2nd/3rd generation.
Okay.
But I had some experience growing up there as well. So it was very common in the 80s for us 2nd generation Jamaicans to experience life growing up back home. So got sent there, done a bit of schooling there, learning the discipline and the education system, and then sort of coming back brighter actually, and better. So it's good so that's why anyone who's not from London or not even from England, we would usually just call ourselves Jamaican, because just generally anybody of Caribbean origin who is here in the UK that's maybe my age or a little bit older doesn't have a parent that was born here. It's usually, our history here is not a very long one. So that's why we will hold on to I'm Jamaican or I'm Nigerian or I'm, because black people haven't been here for hundreds of years. Maybe in passing with slave trade and stuff, but not settling. So
very different from the way that it is in the United States. Yeah, because we've been there for, the majority of black people who are there now is a remnant of the slave trade.
Yeah, exactly. You'll still have great-great-great-grandparents that were born in the States.
I don't know that far.
Or maybe great-great at least.
Yeah.
But here we don't. It will be parents and at my age, so the newer generation, say the people in their 20s, then maybe they might have a grandparent that was born here. But yeah, we've not been here that long.
Interesting. Okay. And who'd you grow up with? Your mom, your dad?
I grew up with my mum, single parent family. Mum was a young mum, and she's done the most and her best actually. She's done really well to keep things in shape, and just having the challenges of being a young.
I see you smile when you started talking about your mom.
I appreciate what she done. It was against all odds. you know, and
Could you give us a little bit, unpack that a bit, when you say against all odds?
All odds, I say all approval. Obviously, my grandma, you know, come from a strict Christian background, was not in approval of, you know, her still a teenage daughter. So my mum's a young mum getting pregnant, and you know, but my mum didn't care. She just stepped up and done what she had to do. She worked 2 jobs. She made sure I didn't want for anything, and she was mum and dad. So
any siblings?
Ratings. Yeah, I've got a little brother. He's 11 years younger than me. So it's just me and him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how would you describe life growing up here in the UK in London? Like, what was it like?
London, most probably the most multicultural place in the whole of England. So this is where we have the most diversity. You've got other cities catching up, so fortunate there. And also more fortunate than what my mum experienced. England developed very, very quickly, because my mum's generation, segregation was still very legal and very allowed. So we're talking literally early 70s. Certain pubs and shops, they would quite openly display that there was no blacks allowed, no dogs, and no Irish, in that order.
No blacks.
Yeah, no blacks, no dogs, and no
Irish.
Irish. Yeah, anyone you speak to kind of in their 50s will tell you this, that that was born here. And that was just normal. That's like, okay, I can't go there. And it changed really rapidly. So what was good is seeing integration change into the late 70s, early 80s, and so my generation had a fresh grasp on stuff. So me being born 79, I would call myself an 80s baby. And I got to experience more inclusivity and equal opportunities and things. So that was nice. That was good. And a lot had changed, because there was no more punishment in schools, because again, up until mid 80s, children could get beaten at school.
Really?
If the children were out of line. So I kind of came when a lot of things had changed. So I think my mum would say I got the good bits.
Okay.
Opportunity wise as well.
Okay.
But it was nice.
Okay. And what did your mom do for a living?
Mum was she was a chef actually. She went about initially chef and cleaning. She would do stuff on the side as well. She would do everything to just kind of have the most. She really liked nice things as well, so she would make sure she'd work to make sure I had as well, and she could, take care of her rent and things. Here in the UK, school's free. You can have paid schooling, but you don't have to. So that's one less burden. We've got a lot more government help as well, with housing and things. So off of the back of the things she was entitled to, plus the things she wanted, she made sure she worked for it. And even when I look back at my baby pictures, because she used to take a lot of photographs, she made sure I always looked nice and neat, had on the best clothes, my hair was tidy. So she done the most. She done the most as a young woman as well. She really done well, I think.
Okay, well, good, good. So I want to ask, that's what your mom did for a living. Did you guys discuss finances in the household?
Not really, not with me as a child. And then growing up with a single parent family, not having to see interaction with my mum and dad discussing what bills are going to get prioritised. And so no, it was just knowing when I wanted something that might have not been cheap and I asked for it, and she'd be like, I haven't got the money this month, or that was the deepest finances went up until I started working really young.
How old?
I was 12.
When you started working?
Just off of my own back. It was a hobby turned career. Started doing friends here at school in the corner of the canteen at lunchtime.
So when you say canteen, that's the American equivalent of cafeteria.
The cafeteria, right. So there was a little spot. I went to a girls' school. It was an all-girls school. So when the girls discovered I was doing my own hair really well. I think then, so we're talking circa 91, 92. So the press curl was in, the finger wave.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to look like the girls in TLC, and I was doing all of those hairstyles on myself. So obviously the girls wanted in. So I'd always reserve a little bit of time at lunch. I remember there were 2 plug sockets. So I put the curling irons in, and obviously to the teacher's dismay, but we were a little bit rebellious.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was getting my paper on, and the girls were going home, and their parents were telling them off because they were convinced they were going to the hair salon in there, actually skipping school to go to the salon. No, this girl called Syrita done it, I promise. So obviously then the parents wanted to meet me, and when it became apparent that there was a girl at their school that was doing hair really well, my mum said I could do it, as work, as long as I'd done my homework. So yeah, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, any hours I could squeeze in, I was going to people. If they came to me, I was confined to my bedroom, but that was cool, and we'd use the bathroom when we needed to wash out, relax. So you was
getting it on.
Yeah. From 12, yeah. I just got fed up of being told, oh no, you can't have that. I can't afford that. That's too expensive. I knew what I wanted. I wanted to be in the latest, what you would call sneakers. I wanted this. I was fed up of hearing no, so I wanted to make money so I could buy nice clothes. That's all a 12-year-old wants. Then it's usually clothes.
Okay. How'd that turn out for you?
Yeah, really well. Yeah, I got everything I wanted. And I was then also able to help my mum because I saw her struggling when my brother's dad left, and things were tight. I actually relieved her, and I said, well, I can buy my own school uniform each term because I felt like I was making enough money at the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, if I get stuck, I'll let you know. And I never got stuck. Yeah, up until like my late teens. So yeah.
Okay, so you legit had like a hobby, a side hustle that turned into
it was good.
A business.
Yeah, it was. That was 12. I was 12 in 1991. I was making like £70 a week then as a schoolgirl. That's more than enough. I couldn't possibly spend all that money, so I was saving because my mum opened a bank account for me. With money, what we did discuss is that she always, I think it's a thing a lot of parents will tell their children anyway, you must save. So that I knew. So 3 years earlier, she'd opened a bank account for me anyway and was putting little stuff in there. But when I started making a little bit more, I was just putting it in. And then at 15, when I got a debit card, so I was able to withdraw. That's when I could, spend my little money that I'd made, or give some to my mum as a treat and surprise her. But yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like you had an entrepreneurial spirit from the jump. Mm-hmm. You was getting your hustle on with the hair in the canteen. Got these girls going home, getting in trouble with their mom.
Yeah.
Okay. And you were supporting the household financially.
Well, I was helping out. I said when I turned 16, I started contributing to the actual upkeep. That's when you come of a certain age and you're still at home. You contribute. Well, I don't know. From a West Indian background, you don't have a choice.
That's just the way
you're still here. But yeah, it wasn't a problem. It made me feel responsible, and
it's funny. I think that's black households globally. Like when I was young and I got a job, like I contributed. And I'm not gonna say I was forced, but
it's a
it was an expectation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to.
Okay, well, good. So I'm just thinking about that in relation to you financially contributing, you learning about saving in your household from your mom. Did you learn anything in terms of financial management in the education system?
No. That's not a module. It's just English, maths, geography, science. Never anything else. Yeah, you do economics later on even, but again, it's nothing to do with
household.
No one's teaching you how to become self-employed, how to get rich, how to be self-dependent. Those things are not taught anywhere in terms of education system. They're not taught at school, college or uni.
Okay. That's an excellent point, and it's a good segue into the next question that I want to ask. So, one of the questions on the pre-interview questionnaire is, how comfortable are you making financial decisions? Scale 0 to 100.
Mine was
you
100.
said 100. Elaborate on that a little bit. Like, tell us why you're so confident about making financial decisions.
Because I've been fiercely independent for a very long time, and I've never been broke. So how can that not equate to being 100% confident with your financial decisions? That's kind of in a nutshell.
No, I like that. So let me ask, what would you say are the key things or actions or attitudes or maybe some things that you've done in the past that have created that immense confidence that you now have?
Okay, so what's created that is sheerly learning from really early on. So obviously I was saving from early, 12 to I'd say 18. I was just stacking, there's, not much else. And 18 is the age in this country where you can buy property. So that's what I was waiting for. So I bought my first property at 19, my first investment property. So where I was doing that, and obviously the money flow got more when I started college, which you guys I think would maybe call high school. College where they're between 16 and 18, so I'm not sure if that's high school.
That's still high school, but I think when you're saying college, it's something different.
It's years 12 and 13. So you've got your school where you're there until 11. Then
so you guys would call it primary school.
Primary school.
And then you have secondary school.
Yeah, what do you call that? That's your high school, right?
So it's actually broken up depending on where you live, but it's essentially 3 different phases. So you go to elementary school, is what we call it, middle school, and then you go to high school.
Right.
So elementary school could be from 5 to 10.
That's right.
Secondary, middle school would be 11 to 13. And then high school would be from 14 to 18.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. So we have, what would be our secondary school is from age 11 to 16.
Yeah.
And then after that, we've either got something called sixth form or college. So once you reach 16, we call it further education. So you can leave school at 16, you can go and get a job, you're done. Or you can do further education, which is, we call it college or sixth form, where you have years, your 12th year of learning and your 13th year of learning, because the high school takes you up to year 11. That's your 11th year, and after that you can leave. But I done further education, and then after that's higher education, from 18 up,
which is university.
Which is university, and you guys call college. We call it.
Well, we call it university as well.
Yes.
But when we say college and university, we're usually referring to the size of the institution or the prestige of the institution. Or the amount of courses or degrees that you can get from the institution.
Right.
The larger, more expensive, that offer more courses are considered universities. Those on the other side of the coin would be considered colleges.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and then the types of degrees that are offered as well. You can't, from college, I don't think there are too many colleges where you can get a master's degree or a doctorate degree in the United States. As opposed to a university, you would have that opportunity. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the difference, and I've just learnt that now as well. So so for us, college is literally 16 to 18, and then university is it. So you can go as an adult, as I did to do my surveying degree. I went to uni at 30. Because it was after doing the hair and investing in property. I wanted a career, but a more clerical side, because the construction, which I will take you into, because I know you're going to ask me about that. I was doing a lot of things myself, so really hands-on. I taught myself a lot of the building things, because obviously, so I'm starting at 19, I'm buying property, but also trying to save money and be shrewd. So I'm buying properties on the cheap. So I'm going outside.
So do you still have that property right now?
Yeah, I still got some. And again, so your
She
initial
said
question,
some, not just that one, some.
so your question, I don't want to stray away from your question. Your question was, what was the question on this one? It was it to do with my
what gave you the immense confidence?
What gave me that confidence, right? So that was because I learned early on not to live to the edge of my means. So for example, if you're making £3,000 or dollars a month, having all your outgoings and all your essential bills, if they take you up to $2,900, and that's living to the edge of your means, I taught myself really early on to live to 20 to 25% of my means. So if I'm making, say, £4,000 a month, I'll make sure my essentials come up to 1,000. That was how I was able to save and invest as well, and especially because I was self-employed doing the hair. So when you're self-employed, you've got to adjust for things 3 to 6 months ahead, because you're not getting paid for vacations, you're not getting paid for sick leave, so you need a contingency in place for that. And
you're not getting paid for benefits like medical,
exactly.
vision,
so you've got
life
to be
insurance.
really sensible. Obviously these are policies you can get out yourself and do privately.
Right, but usually it's coordinated through an organization.
Exactly. So that's why I knew really early on that I couldn't live to the edge of my means, and I was sensible enough to stay at home as long as I could. So I was when I started investing, I was at home still for another 10 years.
Okay.
So I'd help my mum.
So how many properties do you have now?
I've got 3. I need 2 more to retire, so that's the aim, and I want them this year. So
okay.
Because I'm done working.
That is impressive. So
I'm done.
You got your first property at 19.
At 19.
How old were you when you purchased your most recent one?
So I haven't purchased for a couple of years actually. And there's been more purchases, but some were flips. So throughout the years, I flipped, where you buy under market value, you do up and you sell back at auction. And so what I have now is what I kept. So I haven't purchased for a good 8 years now, because when I did get into the quantity surveying, getting comfortable as well, and the money's really good, and it was good to relax for a bit as well, because I've been pioneering from young, but at the same time I've now worked for somebody long enough to know that I want to teeter off now and close it down. But it's good that I've had the experience of being able to relax on the residual income that I've got, plus having a career that paid okay and I could travel, because that's actually what I wanted to do. So I wanted sort of a good few years of kind of unlimited travel, where I could, within the allowance of time I was given with annual leave, because when you work here, depending on the organisation, you can get between 20 and 30 days annual leave. So I think it was that restriction as well that made me think, much as I'm enjoying this, I want more. I don't want to have to be putting in requests. Oh, can I have holiday this time? That's what's inspired me to want to retire soon. Is to be able to just be free of those sort of restrictions, and free from relying on a paycheck to see the next month through.
Okay. I want to go back a bit to when you were younger. So you're a Londoner. I want to ask, what part of London did you come from? Southeast London. And from an economic standpoint, where would you rate it? Like low, I don't want to say low class, but middle class?
It depends. London's got pockets. So you'll have pockets of gentrified areas. Anybody from London will be able to relate. And even now you'll see it in places where...
When you say gentrified, what do you mean?
It just up and come. There'll be a surge of there'll be like a few little... There'll be an area that's been kind of working class, but then there's a section inside that area that is middle class. You know, where you know, people have just bought up some properties, or even developments have been built. It's happened. You've got areas like you've got Peckham that's southeast London. It's not too far from where I grew up. So I grew up in Lewisham, which was always like a very working class to poor area. But then you'll have little pockets in Peckham that you couldn't, you know, the average person couldn't even afford to buy a house, you know, and then you'll have like these jazzy, these sexy little restaurants and corner bars. You can tell you're in a different part, and then you go around the corner and then there's a local authority housing estate, you know, so that's what I say, you'll have little pockets. So it's really hard to say there's one part of London that is, I'd say, yeah, within the last 10 years, a lot of the poorer boroughs have got gentrified pockets in them. So where I was, yeah, it was working class at the time, but now it's really up and coming.
Okay.
Yeah, it's literally changed within the last 5-10 years, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting to hear you say that. How did you stay in that area, and how did that impact you?
Well, my mum's still there. I've moved further out. I'm in Greenwich now, so again, that's kind of like a working to middle class borough, but that, again, you'll still get really more poor, even maybe poverty stricken parts, you know. And I wouldn't have known that until I watched a documentary a few years ago about the rate of unemployment.
You know what the name of it is?
Sorry?
The name of the documentary?
I can't remember. I can find out for you. But yeah, it's really interesting, because even me, I was quite ignorant to how many people didn't work in my local area, and yeah, very interesting. But again, here, the benefit system is fairly generous, you know, as opposed to the third world, or even say where my grandparents are from. Like, there, if you don't work, you don't eat. Whereas here, people are a lot more relaxed and can give really stupid reasons for not being able to work, and, you know, find themselves claiming benefits and, you know, having a roof over their heads and living. So some people are happy to skate on that, whereas then you have those that want more, so then they will go out and unlimit themselves.
Okay. I was just thinking about something as you were talking. You bought your first piece of property at 19. Like, what motivated you to do that?
So, obviously, I was doing the hair and beauty, and I knew I wanted to. I just always had heard that your property is a good investment. It made sense to me. I'd done a little research then. The internet wasn't as great as it is now. I think it was only just coming out when I was 19. Yeah, that was 89, so it was really before the boom of the internet. So a lot of it was research through books and the library. And it was actually a client, her husband.
One of your hair clients?
One of my hair clients.
Okay.
Her husband was a banker, and she was regular for what she had done. I think she used to have like bum length braids 3-4 times a month. So obviously he'd see me there braiding for like 14 hours there until like 2 in the morning. But he could see my grind, like he could see my hustle. And one day he just said to me, like, "What are you?" He said, "I can see like you're working really hard." He said, "I know you're stacking." He said, "What are your goals?" And I said, "Oh, I want to buy property." You know, I was actually saving enough to buy a property cash, because I'd done some research on what it was to buy cash on the coast, and I was pretty much there. And he says, "Oh no, don't do that," you know. And it was him that gave me like a little bit of schooling about using it and putting a percentage down on 3 different properties with what I had saved. And
so when you say put a percentage down, you would put a percentage down on the mortgage.
Just do a mortgage rather than do a cash buy. Yeah, rather than doing a cash buy.
So use other people's money
Absolutely.
to finance
and
that's
what I wasn't educated in. And he just schooled me, and I was a good student. He's like, he led a horse to water, and I drank. I drank the whole lake. And I took it all up, took his information in, and yeah, that was a good time to be buying between then and 2007 before
the housing
boom. Because you had it in the States as well, right? Was it the same kind of time? Yeah, and even after then was a buyer's market, so it was great for me and doing my little flips and things. Having a bit of experience at auctions. I've bought a few auction properties as well. Below market value, flipping them, making a percentage and then reinvesting. Yeah.
Okay. One of the other questions I asked, what was one of the most impactful publications? You said Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why.
So I read that only very recently, literally at the beginning of lockdown. So let's call that February 2020.
Mm-hmm.
It's just over a year ago. And even though it's telling me things I'm actually already doing, it's nice to see it iterated, right in my heart. And then it's just fine tuning things for me. So that helped me. That made me decide that, I just need 2 more properties to retire. I need to do this, and this. It kind of just gave me that kick up the bum I needed to really stop being relaxed and comfortable with a good salary, and why not get more by doing less, working smart rather than working hard. So that couple more investments will allow me the wealth of time, because people always talk about wealth in monetary terms, but you can be time rich as well, which is what I want. Like I said to you, I like to travel, I like to go away as soon as I can, all the time. I love holidays, so that will create some time wealth for me.
So that's interesting you said that. So you were motivated by reading that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. What are you doing right now, and I like that phrase, to be time wealthy? Like, what does that look like for Syrita right now?
Cool. So it's literally stacking for those last 2 properties, and then I'm done. That is it. That's my light at the end of the tunnel. The reason I had time during the first lockdown is because I was one of the unfortunate ones to get laid off and lose my job. Myself and 9 other colleagues did. But I'm not even going to call it misfortune or unfortunate, because actually
this was during COVID.
Yeah. So a lot of people lost their jobs, and at the level I am as well, a lot of senior management got laid off because obviously they're more expensive. It was myself and 8 other colleagues where I was working last, and I know that my director had to be doing my work, because with redundancies, it's actually those who are left behind, because the workload doesn't go down, and then you've got less staff. So I'm sure it was very challenging times for a lot of people, but for me, and again, what I said to you in terms of being sensible with my money, what was good about that, I didn't have to make any rash decisions like selling my house or selling my car or my shoe collection because I've lost my job. I was actually able to
Not that you said shoe collection.
my shoes, they're worth something. So I was fortunate enough to be able to chill for 10 months. I was able to chill for 10 months, and coming towards the end of that, I thought, okay, let's do some essential works to keep the lights on and make sure things are ticking over while my industry picks up, which it is picking up again now. And I've actually recently acquired a role back to where I'm at, which is really good news. And I knew it would just be a matter of time, because we're not gonna have this recession forever. So that is good news. And in between that, obviously, towards the end, I'm doing some essential works at a local warehouse to just make sure everything's right and I don't have to sell my car or my shoe collection. But it worked out perfectly, and even to be able to live off of what I'm doing now, to fill the gap. I know a lot of my colleagues would not have been able to, and I put that down to just instilling that 20 to 25% what can I call it, use of my salary, rather than having living to the edge of it. So yeah, for many years I always knew that, and I just
Hold on.
didn't
So
think naturally.
let me ask, just for clarity. You said you only live off 20 to 25% of your salary.
Yeah, the salary I was getting. Yeah, no, that 20 to 25% of my salary went on all my essential stuff. So that would be
Housing,
food, car, electric.
And 20 to 25% went to that, and the other
The rest
80
I could
to
save or
75.
spend.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying. So when you ask me how confident I was, I would say very, because I still haven't yet met anybody that can do that. But as well, it would be very hard for somebody to start doing that with what they're making, because they're already in it.
Yeah, they are accustomed to a lifestyle with the bills that match.
Exactly. Whereas I always went below. So when I started university,
And when you say below, you live below your means.
I lived below my means, but still really well. Until I meet that freedom, then I knew I could really oversplurge. So it's funny because people will look at maybe what I've got and be like, oh, she's living like a rich girl, or I make twice as much and can't afford the car that she drives. And that's just because I've been sensible enough to create that wealth within how I manage my finances, basically. So not living hand to mouth. I can give you a really quick example. I remember it wasn't me directly, but a friend of mine speaking to one of my bosses who was on like 120,000 a year, but he was saying when his salary comes in, after he takes his girls, he's got his girls' school fees, and he's paying for his like £1 million house, and his car, and his wife's car, and their gym memberships, and the bills, he's got £300 left over every month. And this man is making twice as much as me. So there was something wrong with that. He's obviously, once he became director, everything else has gone up, but without being sensible with his investments and maybe having some residual income so that he can enjoy more of his salary. So I just learnt that really young. I'm fortunate that I learnt that early, and I learnt it before my cost of living did start growing. So even now, I really want to upgrade my car, but I know I'd be better off buying those 2 properties first. Then I can relax. Yeah, I don't need the car. I want it, and the car's already nice. Why not get something that's going to make you money in your sleep? Then you can start splurging. So, yeah, that's kind of how I've always.
And something else that we talked about, you also do online trading?
I trade Forex as well, foreign exchange.
How long have you been doing that?
I learned 2 years ago, and I'd say 8 months ago was when I started doing it at a profit. So again, with me, I'm a slow learner, because I think that with decision making, like I said, I'd like to say or think of myself as really taking time and not making rash decisions when it comes to finances, and especially things that are going to impact your future. So much as I paid for the course to learn how to trade, and then I wanted to start seeing results really quickly, hear these stories of people. I knew the fact that I was working full time as well, and then learning something new, knowing me, I knew I had to take my time and pace myself. So I wasn't going to see a return on my investment straight away, but I would eventually, and I did start to see that. From about 8 months ago, I was able to trade at a level where I can top up, my incomes.
And what got you interested in trading foreign exchange?
Smart earning. So working less, making more, or the same. That's what's attractive to me. So even yesterday, the trading I've done. So with me, I'm very much an intraday trader, and I like to get in and get out, and my goal for each day is 2%.
So for those of you who aren't intraday traders, that means you're trading within an 8-hour period that the financial market is open. So you're going to make a trade, you're going to buy it, and then you're going to sell it within that same 8-hour period.
Yeah. You're going to buy or sell. Come in, come out, shut your laptop. Know when to, and that's taken me between 30 minutes and 1 hour. Excuse me. So
on average, how much do you see?
Monetarily.
Yeah.
So 2%, if you just think of, it depends on the size of your account, obviously. So 2% of, so I had a 20 grand account. 2% of that is £400.
Yeah.
A day. That's pretty decent. And here in the UK, trading is still viewed as, is high risk, so it's viewed as gambling. And in the UK, we're very fortunate, we don't pay tax on gambling.
Wow.
So that's £400 tax free.
That you get to put straight.
Yeah, if you've got a 20 grand account, I'm just giving you an example, like round figures, because as well, the way I looked at that is you could put 20 grand into a property, but not really see, you're not going to make £400 a day. Maybe a month, from the tenant's rent after you've paid the mortgage, if you find a property that's that cheap, which you can in the north of England, So it just made a lot of sense to get really savvy at that, and again, I like to do things really thoroughly. So within that 18-month learning period I had, I also taught myself, because you can do automated trading as well, which is what helps me make my 2%. So it's called expert advisors. They're like robots that are coded into your trading platform, and you can use them to help you execute your trades with a precision that suits your style. So one weekend I done like 30 hours of training online, and I taught myself how to make my own robots. So that helps me with my 2% a day, which is a self-made robot that I have.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have one other question I wanted to ask before closing out the session. I can't get away from what's going on currently, current events. I don't know if you're aware, but a year ago today was when the global protests really started after the public murder of George Floyd. And now the officer who they claim is responsible is on trial. And that's going on in the States right now. What I wanted to ask is, how did you feel when that happened?
Distraught. I still haven't watched the full video. I'm such an empath, I cannot absorb that. But yeah, things like that just sicken and sadden me, and as you know, that really impacted a lot of people globally. I've even heard like places like Saudi Arabia were protesting and things.
Now let me put this in more context. Like, the reason I asked the question is because you're a black woman living in the UK, was born and raised in the UK. This is a black man who was born and raised in the United States. Like, in that context, I get it from a human standpoint. It is disgusting. But as being a black woman, like, how did that make you feel to know something like that happened? I know you said you didn't watch the video.
Yeah, no, I didn't, but obviously I know the facts.
And I haven't heard anything similar to that since I've been in the UK. Like, we have public murders of African Americans in the United States. I hate to say it, but it almost seems like a regular occurrence. I haven't heard any news like that since I've lived in the UK, and I've been here since September of 2019. Oh,
you haven't heard any news like that happening in the UK?
Not during this time frame. So that's why I asked the question the way that I do.
Yeah.
Like, what is your perception of that?
So when you say my perception, because there's lots of different views I can come from, and I want to make sure I answer your question directly. So
I'm talking about
how
you.
Does it make me feel?
Yeah.
Just disappointed. One, that in this day and age, it's allowed. It's a shock. It was shock for me, and especially hearing the backstory of how it started with a counterfeit bill that he spent in the shop to buy his cigarettes, and why the police would even want to draw a gun over that when the guy's in his car lighting up. That made no sense to me. So it's almost archaic. Yeah, it was just, I couldn't make sense of where that came from and what made the officer feel like that was even okay. You know, an unarmed guy, you know, in his car. And for what it was as well, because obviously if there was something, he would have been quick to leave the shop and speed off. He was outside the shop chilling and didn't know those were his last hours. It's so sad. Yeah, I can't. I don't have words. The fact that I can't even answer your question directly shows I don't have really words for how I feel. But yeah, obviously very saddened and disappointed, and more so for his family and a lot of people that's affected. But yeah, it's disgusting.
So
I cannot.
A follow-up question I wanted to ask, in your life, you know, doing what you do and growing up and living and working in the UK, what has your experience been like in from a racial standpoint?
Being black.
Yeah. Being
black and a woman. It's a double whammy.
Minority.
Because so my industry as a quantity surveyor, middle-aged white men are my colleagues, straight. So has its advantages because people wanna maybe pussyfoot around you and make sure one, you're a girl, then you're black. So I found people being very careful, but I have experienced resentment as well. You know, one, I moved up really quickly, so the senior position that I'm in as a quantity surveyor, a lot of people maybe worked 15 years to get there, and I've done it in 3 years. There's that too, but you know, it was reminding people, you know, especially looking younger than I am, reminding people I'm not in my 20s, you know, I've got this experience with doing the properties and things that sort of gave me a head start, you know, because technically I had that experience with building and hands-on as well, because I do second fix electrics, plumbing and carpentry, all self-taught. So when I'm dealing with the subcontractors, I know what I'm talking about. So I did find as well sometimes when I'm dealing with like these middle-aged white men that have taken maybe 20 years to get to know what I know. I have taken that, but not in that role. So they're forgetting that. They're just seeing, oh, she was a graduate QS in 2012 and now in 2018, because that's when I hit the seniority I'm at now. Like, how? But you know, it's almost like I felt like sometimes I had to just remind people, and it's funny when I remind them, and that's why I used to remind them that I'm not 20. You know, I'm not 20 or 30. You know, I'm in my 40s, and I think that kind of made people relax a little bit. Like, oh, okay, then she's mature, like she's worthy. But and as well, don't forget, I'm coming from a self-employed background, so self-employed people are very entrepreneurial naturally, and I plan to go back to being self-employed. This was always just going to be a little stint of experiencing, you know, a good professional grade job, you know, but within the industry that I like, and then obviously being able to use that money to help me and experience as well, because to be honest, me finishing up a lot of the experience and the contacts I've made, especially with builders and things, that's really going to help me with my personal stuff, acquiring more property and developing your personal financial investments. Exactly, that's going to really help, and I really want to move into doing hotels as well later on. So, you know, this experience is definitely not time wasted. But what you got to remember is, so I'm coming from a self-employed background, and I've jumped into this profession. Then I'm going to jump back out. A lot of these people have been in the job since they left school, and they're just doing it, and then they're going to stay there until they're 70, the retirement age or whatever it is, you know, and they're quite happy plodding along like that, you know. Whereas for me, that's not enough. It's not enough, and I think when some see that, like, oh, so there's some resentment. I have people trying to railroad me you know, so I find that I have to just be that little bit more savvy, unfortunately. I say unfortunately because I might have to do a little bit more than a white male would have to do in my industry to show and prove. You know, I feel like there's that. The eyes are on me, but I never fail. But I have to be on top form all the time. So yeah, that's my experience with being in this industry. But it suits me because I'm an overachiever anyway. So that suits my personality just fine. So it's kind of like what I need to feel driven and motivated to wake up for work in the morning. So yeah, it works out for my personality.
All right. Well, we're getting to wrapping this up, but something that I would like to do is like a final thought from the guest, from yourself. What is a key takeaway that you would say to our audience, our listeners, that they can take on today and apply in their lives immediately?
In terms of managing finances?
Yes.
Okay. So again, if it's early enough and not too late to be in a position to have not lived to the edge of their means, but like I said, a lot of people are already there. They've already got that mortgage and things. So the only thing they can really do then is to really start looking at ways to work smart and grow their asset column. If you've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, you'll know what your asset column is. But literally, it is having a pool of assets that are making money for you without you physically working. So yeah, investing in a property or two, so that your salary, what you are working for, is also topped up by something that you know you've done the work initially for, but can actually have you seeing a bit more return at the end of each month. You know, that's a way to get yourself out of debt. Really, is to acquire assets and have your side hustles with things that suit you.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
This was a wonderful interview, very insightful. I appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule to come out and grace us with your presence and insight. Yeah, I wish you nothing but continued success.
Thank you.
And we will speak soon.
Thank you.